Good morning. I am Jon Mutchler, pastor at the Ferndale Alliance Church. We have been going through verse by verse the Sermon on the Mount, which is found in Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7. We are in chapter 5 looking at verse 21, where Jesus references the Old Testament commandment, one of the 10 commandments found in Exodus chapter 20. Thou shalt not commit murder, or some translations say, you shall not kill. And we can't avoid the uncomfortable subject of abortion. And I want to share why I am unashamedly pro-life and what that means to me. And I come at this controversial, divisive, and frankly painful matter as both a parent and as a pastor. And I don't take it lightly, nor do the folks touched by it. Women and men, teenagers facing an unplanned pregnancy and what to do. It is not a casual, inconsequential concern or choice. And I hope our conversation here can be both thoughtful and respectful. So I want to thank you, first of all, for listening. And full disclosure here, besides being a pastor, pastoring families for 32 years, I serve as a board member, in fact, the longest serving board member of our local crisis pregnancy clinic, which is fully dedicated to providing compassionate, helpful, non-judgmental, and accurate medical information, services, and support to both women and men finding themselves in the scary position of an unintended pregnancy. Another disclosure here, Diane and I have 7 children, and I was there assisting or at least watching in the birth of each of them. Does that have an impact on me? Of course it does. In fact, I would like to start there in the delivery room, where babies are delivered. Not groceries, not Amazon packages, but babies are delivered. And we've had hospital deliveries as well as home birth deliveries, all of them resulting in human babies. One was early, 6 weeks early, and it was by C-section, and I am grateful for the medical services provided that very possibly saved Nick's life. But still, 6 weeks early, still a baby, just half the size of the others. And this is in part why we are pro-life. It's a baby. It's a human life. It's alive, so it's a life, and it's not a dog. It's not an oak tree. It's a human, so it's a human life. At what point, going backwards, 1 week before delivery, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, are we prepared to make that decision that it's not a life, a human life, a baby? Now, you may think differently than me, and I'm fine about that. I'm not here to fight or argue, but I'm very comfortable to look at life as beginning at conception, when a sperm, self-contained with its own unique, one-of-a-kind DNA package, combining with the egg of a woman with, again, its own unique, one-of-a-kind DNA package, with the spark of life starting a human being. But John, it's my body, it's my choice. It's the woman's body and the woman's choice. And of course, that is indeed the law of the land, upheld by the Supreme Court, coming upon 50 years here of Roe v. Wade as settled law. I don't expect it to change anytime soon, and I would just reference really quickly, you may not know this, but the state of South Dakota, definitely a red conservative state, in the last 12 years voted twice statewide on abortion, and both times voted to uphold the right of a woman to choose. For me, I take the same position as Abby Johnson. Abby Johnson was at one time the director of an abortion and women's clinic. She said this: "It's not my mission in life to make abortion illegal. I would just like to make it unthinkable. My body, my choice, that rings true to many. I get that. But is it truly just your body? I think that the medical evidence is indisputable and overwhelming that we are looking at a separate life, certainly separate from the father, but also separate in many ways from the mother. Separate DNA, separate everything. I have a story of a personal friend of mine. He and his wife wanted to have their own baby. They tried, they weren't able to. There was nothing wrong with his sperm. There was nothing wrong with her eggs, but she just couldn't keep an egg implanted in her uterus and was not able to bring a baby to term. So they did like a number of parents do. They hired a surrogate mother to actually carry the baby to term. So a third person is involved here. My friends are both white. The surrogate mom just happened to be African American. She was from another state because at the time, at least, Washington State would not allow hiring a surrogate mother. I don't care what color people are, I really don't, but I think it helps create a picture in my mind at least that that baby was certainly separate in every possible way from the mother. While we are talking about race, I think this is important and interesting too. Do Black lives matter? You bet they do, of course they do. I like to think that all Black lives matter. And I went to look at the research done by Planned Parenthood's Guttmacher Institute, and this is a statistic that concerns me. I think it should concern everybody, that the abortion rate among white women between the ages of 15 and 44, the abortion rate, annual abortion rate, is about 1 abortion in every 1,000 women, white women. In the African American community, it's 2.7 abortions per 1,000 women in the age bracket 15 through 44. In other words, African American Black women are aborting their unborn babies at a rate 3 times as much as white women. What do we do about that? I think there are a lot of things we can do about that, but I think it should be concerned because I do tend to think in my heart that all Black lives matter. Obviously, I'm also a person of faith. In our founding documents, especially in Genesis, we have this powerful affirmation of the sanctity of life. The sanctity of life. Listen to this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. God said, let us create mankind in our image, in our likeness. And then down to verse 27, it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. And get this, male and female, he created them. And could I say men and women, boys and girls are created in God's image. And I said in a previous video that I think racism is blasphemy. But racism, and if you're looking at it from a religious perspective, it's absolute blasphemy because it's devaluing a creation of God, all mankind, whatever color, whatever country, whatever culture, created in God's image, and to say that life's not important, we can dismiss that life, we can treat that life as less than everybody else because of skin color. That is a sense of blasphemy. Isn't treating the lives of the unborn casually, expendable, removable, isn't that also a type of lack of appreciation for the sanctity of life that God has given us? I also would like to read from Psalms 139, more poetic, more personal, more powerful. David, who was a king and a poet, perhaps when you hear this, you might think he was an armchair OBGYN. He says this in Psalm 139, verse 13. For God, you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb, and I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works, they are wonderful I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when you made me in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body, and all the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. And were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. And when I am awake, I am still with you. Obviously, that's a religious perspective, but that goes along with my understanding of science and biology and life to again make me say without hesitation, I'm pro-life. So where does that leave us? What does that mean for us now? Abortion is legal, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But hearts are changing, oddly enough. Some recent statistics, and I looked this up at Gallup, the Gallup polls, it's about 50-50. But interesting enough, here are the statistics. The percentage of people who say they are pro-life as opposed to pro-choice. If they had to identify one or the other, men, 48% of men identify as pro-choice. 48% of men. 46% of men identify as pro-life. So a slight edge for men to be on the pro-choice side. But this is maybe the more interesting statistic found very recently from Gallup. 51% of women consider themselves pro-life. 51%. Only 43% consider themselves pro-choice. I'll let you try to figure out what that means, but a higher percentage of men consider themselves pro-choice, and a higher percentage of women consider themselves pro-life. So what are we going to do here? Just some suggestions here at the end. As parents, as leaders, teachers, pastors, we need to train men from an early age to be responsible. And they should not sleep with a woman until they are ready. In every aspect of the word, they are ready to be fathers. So they can be all in, because being a father is an essential and critical job and not for the faint of heart. Secondly, we need to teach girls not to settle for losers. Not to settle for losers who won't be there when they need them. And they need to not buy into this lie. And I have spoken to too many to not know this is true. To buy into the lie that if I sleep with him, he'll love me. If he doesn't love you before you sleep together, it's unlikely he's going to love you afterwards. And then finally, for everybody, regardless of where you stand on the issue, we must provide love and support, help, and compassion for those pregnant and those alone. And I'll say this in closing to people who will listen to this message who are facing an unwanted pregnancy. A woman, maybe a partner's in the situation. There are countless couples willing and desiring to adopt of all races. I have family members in a city not far from here, family members who are great people. They're in their 20s. They work hard. They're self-supporting. They're very capable. They are unable to have children, and they would like to adopt. There are countless couples the same way that are willing to adopt children of any race. So if you find yourself in that situation, contact me or contact any agency that supports and assists with adoption. Thank you for walking through this difficult topic with me. I really appreciate that. My heart goes out to anyone facing the challenges of an unplanned pregnancy. It is truly hard. It's truly difficult. It is scary. But I promise there are people willing to help you regardless of the choice that you decide to make. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.